Oh. Hari Om and greetings from Niagara Falls. I once again welcome all of our young adults and our evolving adults who are connecting through Zoom, all of our adults who are connecting through YouTube, to the final discourse in our retreat on Mind the Gap. For a good person, when they engage in that which is wrong, that makes them feel bad, makes them feel sad. For a great person, when they compromise on their ideal, that's what makes them feel bad, makes them feel sad. The intensity is different. Great people don't do that which is wrong, they only compromise on their ideal. We all have gaps in our personality. The breadth, the depth, it's different, but we all have gaps. For some, we want something, but do something else. For another, they think something, but say something else. For all of us, our ability is infinite. Our capability, how much of that ability we're capturing, is quite finite. And so our retreat has the focus of filling in these gaps. We're using terms like mind the gap, cross the gap. We're really filling in these holes that are draining our energy, enthusiasm, our happiness. And this is more critical when you are younger. More critical when change is more intense. The average age of the one attending this retreat is young. And if you think of the time that we're living in right now, change is becoming faster. Minding our gap is a way to bring out the best in us. And if we don't, the worst in us will continue to flourish. We need a guide for this subjective science, and our guide is Sri Ramana. One way to honor Sri Ramana, people call him a rishi. A rishi is a seer. And I don't mean just naming someone rishi like so many people do. I mean being a seer, one who can see what others can't see. And he's trying to open our eyes to bring meaning into puja and japa and dhyana, to bring meaning to our lives. And he's doing this through Upadesha Sara. This scripture dissects, analyzes, presents yoga. One of the champions of yoga is Rishi Patanjali. In his scripture, the second teaching is Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. He shares the vision of yoga is to transcend the thoughts of the mind. So all of a sudden, yoga is not an exercise, it is not a breathing technique. It is a vision to become quieter, to become stiller, to become silent. Yoga comes from the base yuj, which means to integrate. We're trying to integrate the body to the breath to the mind to the intellect, especially. And the most universal way to do this is through bhakti yoga, the devotion path, which requires faith. You don't need to be rich to have faith. You don't need to be educated to have faith. There are no restrictions to being faithful. We can all be faithful. And that's why we're traversing this path together. Bhakti Yoga begins in verse 4. We'll chant the verses that we've explored, and I'll review them also. Kaya Vangmana Karyamuttamam Pujanam Japas Chintanam Kramat. Here Sri Ramana orients us towards what bhakti is. And he's specifically saying there is a sequence, there is an intensity that we should grow into in terms of bhakti. Swami Tejomayananda had shared with us in terms of bhakti. What is being shared is your first identity is as a bhakta. You should be a devotee and then everything else. And the practicality of this message is that becomes your first priority. Then everything else. Now, when we come across such a message, we feel being a devotee, practicing bhakti is in an exclusive environment. I have to do this, and then I have to go to the real world. And so Sri Ramana starts to dismantle this notion. Before we leave verse 4, our message is start. Whatever your strength is, start from there. %90 of seekers seek out of desperation. 10% of seekers seek out of inspiration. It's almost like the older you become, the more tired you become of the way that you've been living. And so you come to the devotion path. Stop being tired. Start being proactive. Start being inspired. Verse 5, Jagata Ishadhi Yukta Sevanam Ashtamurti Brid Deva Pujanam. Let's start with puja. Whom should I pray to? Sri Ramana takes us from outside to inside, from the elements to light. Finally, the light within ourselves. He's sharing this entire multiverse is to be served. And he systematically describes what the multiverse is made of. And the greatest, they don't theorize about this, they live like this. Sri Tulsidas, in one of his teachings, has shared, the multiverse is my shrine. His mandir is not made out of bricks. His mandir is made of the elements, of the lights. And in a shrine, there's always a focal point, a center, and that is the Isha. That is Bhagwan. So for us to be service-oriented, and our message is lifestyle. To make your lifestyle productive. Make the world a better place. Again, this is yoga. Yoga means perpetual betterment. By you helping the world to be a better place, you become a better person. Then I took you to verse 7. Ajyadharaya srotasa samam, sarala chintanam, viralataf param. Sri Ramana takes us from puja to japa to dhyana. Now, the precursor for dhyana or contemplation is called dharana. Dharana means flow, flow with lots of effort. And the evolution of dharana is dhyana, which is flow with little effort. In Niagara Falls, the water that flows over the falls, that is a dhara. It is a flow, but it's effortless. Gravity is just pulling that water. But if the flow had to go the other way, a lot of effort would be required. We tend to be extrovert, always thinking about articles, beings, circumstances. So a lot of effort is required to begin to flow towards the mind and intellect, ego. You will need a lot of effort, but slowly that will become little effort, like everything in life. Think about when you first learned how to drive, how stressful it was. Your muscles are tense, you're sweating. Now, people just drive with one finger, right? Now they have cars that drive themselves. It's dhyana. Those are dhyana cars. And I'm sharing all of this because you may feel, when do I have to stop putting in so much effort? Think about your own life. Momentum, help, whatever, become effortless. Puja and japa are preparation. Dhyana is the process. Without the preparation, you can't get into the flow of the process. And our message, routine. Same time, same place, same intention. In your infinity space, relax the body. Enjoy breathing. Chant with the mind. This is called Pancha Kosha Viveka Dhyana. This approach, this path, is to let go of what you are not. And once you let go of more and more and more, you start to hold on to who you are more. Routine. Start, lifestyle, routine. Verse 8. Bheda bhavanat sohamityasau bhavana bhida pavani mata. Dharana is verse 7. Dhyana is verse 8, even though the word dhyana is used for both. Here, there is more intimacy. This whole experience is more natural. In our study of Bhagavatam, I'd shared 2 words. The gopis were perpetually thinking of Bhagavan Krishna and personally thinking of Bhagavan Krishna. That's like verse 7 and 8. 7 is more time related. You have to keep on putting in effort. And I said routine. In verse 8, this is to make this personal. Whatever you're steady with, you become more sincere with. And our message is relate. Relate to what you're contemplating on. Relate that you're contemplating on your own self. A few more insights into this verse before we continue. One of the systems I'd shared with all of you to go from puja to dhyana is a focus on rupa, then nama, then guna, and dhamma. If you think of a stranger in your life, someone you see at the grocery store, someone you see in your college cafeteria, you only see their rupa, correct? They are a stranger to you. But the more you see them, maybe that relationship evolves for them to become an acquaintance. Now you know their nama also. That's Josephine, or that's Priya, correct? It went from rupa to rupa plus nama. Rupa is puja, nama is japa. Now for this acquaintance to become even closer, you go from nama to guna. You start to see the qualities of this acquaintance and they become your friend. Yes. So that's what's being shared here. Guna. And a friend ideally should evolve to you being their lover, and don't think of this in a romantic way only. For you to love them. And whoever you love, where do you feel them? In you. That Dhamma is you. Stranger, acquaintance, friend, lover, rupa, nama, dhara, dhyana. From the qualities to the abode. And many, many, many scriptures confirm this. In the Bhagavad Gita, and lots of you are in our Living the Gita course. The question we recently focused on, Prince Arjuna asks Bhagavan Krishna, who am I? And Bhagavan Krishna says, I am you. See how Bhagavan Krishna is planting the seed with Prince Arjuna. And this is only in chapter 8. That you think that you're different than me, but really inside of you is me. And in Swami Tejomayananda's commentary, he's sharing, inside of every wave is water. You have to go from the wave to the ocean to finally feeling water. You feel this more personally. So I referenced Bhagavad Gita, Swami Tejomayananda's commentary. Now Soham. All of you breathe in deeply and listen. Now breathe out deeply. Can you hear the Soham? So your own breathing is confirming he is you, you are he. And if you're not hearing that yet, subliminally, now you will. So all of our scriptures, all of our experiences are confirming we are divine. And when you start to feel that the Creator, that the Master is looking after you, and you feel that Creator within yourself, you start to look after others then. That's the utility. If you need a utility, is you become more capable of looking after others. That's what the world needs more of. People who are giving rather than people who are needing. Start, lifestyle, routine, relate. And how I guided all of you in terms of dhyana was start to inquire. After relaxing the body and enjoying breathing and quieting the mind, inquire with the intellect, who are you? Who lives inside of you? We continue. We're reaching the completion of dhyana, the completion of bhakti. Bhava shunya sad, bhava sustitihi, bhava shunya sad, bhava sustitihi, bhavana balad, bhaktiruttama, bhavana balad, bhaktiruttama. Bhava shunya. That's really the first quarter. Bhava is a feeling. And feeling comes from thinking. If you think negatively, you feel negatively. If you think positively, you will feel positively. And shunya means nothingness. It means zero in math. It means nothingness. And so what Sri Ramana is deciphering for us, we should feel most natural about our spirit. We shouldn't have to think about it. The evolution of dhyana, I told you, with lots of effort, little effort to no effort. You don't need to think about who you are because you're being who you are. Like, do you think about who it is when you look in the mirror? There's no thoughts there. You know that's you. What about your name? If someone calls out your name, Sapna, Sahana, do you have to think about it? You know that's your name. You don't have thoughts about it. This is the trajectory for contemplation. For us to feel this effortlessly, the word I'm using is naturally. The second quarter, sad bhava sustitihi. This feeling, this thinking, sustitihi, should be established in sat. Sat means existence. Sat means infinity. The evolution of minding your gap, the evolution of dhyana, is to be peace. Verse 7, be perpetual. Verse 8, be personal. If you do this, verse 9 is, you will be peace. Like the gopis, what did they finally experience? The rasa. They experienced peace. The third quarter, bhavana balat. The strength, the momentum of your feeling, your thinking, your contemplating will lead you to experiencing this. The strength, the momentum. In the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 6, Bhagavan Krishna teaches dhyana, an entire chapter, much more elaborate than what we're studying. And as he's guiding Prince Arjuna, eventually Prince Arjuna shares, this is too hard. I can't focus. And he shares this with fear, with I want to do this, but I can't do this. And Bhagavan Krishna shares two qualities that are imperative for someone to reach the ends. And those two qualities are nishchaya, and I will explain this in English. The second is anirvinna. The full term is anirvinna chetasa. You just remember anirvinna. Nishchaya means determination. Anirvinna means inspiration. These two mindsets are required to go deeper into who you are. I'll elaborate more. Nishchaya is for us to identify a vice in our personality. Just one. You have a whole buffet to choose from. Just pick one. And then what follows this analysis of this vice is to practice the opposite value. Swami Chinmayananda has described this as negation and substitution. Pick a vice, analyze what damage this is doing to you, how it's causing this gap, this hole, then practice the opposite so that we're crossing this gap. That's called substitution. like a vice that is quite common amongst all of us is anger. In a lighter sense, it's annoyance. In a deeper sense, it's rage. What is the opposite of anger? Acceptance. So if you find that you have an anger problem, what should you do? Be determined to practice acceptance. That's nishchaya. No different than if you're touring across Europe. If you really want to go to lots of places, you have a route planned out, yes? Train schedules, plane schedules, where to eat, where not to go. You're determined to do all of this. Now, as for inspiration, anirvidna, this retreat is in a controlled environment, especially those who are living by themselves right now. If there's any lack of control, it's your own lack of control. But it is a controlled environment. And as you shift to an uncontrolled environment, back to school, back to work, back to whatever responsibilities, you're going to get punched and kicked. You have to be inspired when you're getting punched and kicked, or you will lose your determination. Yes? Every one of us, if you could count how many times you faltered, it would be too many times. Just think about the snooze button that you use. That itself is faltering on what you determined the night previous, correct? So one has to be inspired. And the best way to be inspired is to live with bhaktas. To be around those who are also trying to be determined, trying to be inspired. Back in the day, my father had given me a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Maybe he thought I needed that in my life. And what I've learned about influencing people, if you are influential, that also means you're open to being influenced. If that channel is open, it can go out and in. And every one of us is influential, which means you're still subject to being influenced. Be around those who are inspired. If you want to be ordinary, you don't need this. But if you're tired of the holes in your personality, this is critical. This is mandatory. So when Sri Ramana uses the word balat, strength, we can just take the word strength and leave it there. This is the English translation. We need lots of references from other scriptures, from our own life, to make this practical. Bhaktir uttama, bhaktihi uttama, this is the completion of bhakti. This is the culmination of devotion. You go from loving to being. The gopis loved Bhagavan Krishna, and then what happened to them? They became Bhagavan Krishna. In my meeting this morning, 5:30 meeting. Who has meetings at 5:30 a.m.? And so I had my Inspire Love Be coat on, and one of the other members on the board was looking at it and said, "Is that your clothing line?" And I said, "It's more of the vision of my life, but it can be a good clothing line." You see how even that message is love to be, as in love evolving to be. So bhakti takes us to being what we want and need, which is joy. Our message for verse 9 is release. Release. Release your divinity. And if that's too grand and abstract a feeling, Release more of your potential. For those who are in college still, are you a better student when your mind is agitated or your mind is quiet? For those who are into art, and I got to see a lot of your art through Slack Space. I think it's called Slack Space, right? Or just Slack. I've been looking at all of that. I'm sure the quieter you were, whatever you expressed was more beautiful. Again, that's releasing your potential, right? And the more you taste this quietude, crossing this gap, the more you want it. In a very harsh example, it's like a sattvic drug. But what's amazing about this is that sattva takes you to sat. That's the word that's used, correct? The quietude leads you to silence. First message, start. That's verse 4. Verse 5, routine. Lifestyle. Verse 7, when we're shifting into dhyana or contemplation, routine. Deeper than that is relating. And if you do these, you will release. In an absolute sense, you'll be relieved of any sort of sadness and fear and confusion. In a more relative sense, you will just be more awesome. You're already so awesome. You will be more awesome. It's the last class and we're not going to see each other for a year, so I should pat you on the back and say, everything is great. We continue to our last verse. This is the completion of Bhakti Yoga. And what's so unique about this text is that the ends is not put at the end of the book. This is the ends. The end of the book is here. And then all of the other verses still come. You never come across such a book. Imagine a movie was like that. The plot, this is what happened. And then another hour of just meandering. Hritstale manas swastata kriya. Hritstale mana swastata kriya. Bhakti yoga bodhascha nishchitam. Bhakti yoga bodhascha nishchitam. Hritstale, which means the center, the fabric of your heart. Who are you? You are what is in the center, the core of you. And that is not the mind, that is not the intellect. It's definitely not the ego. It is the spirit. Who are you? You are your nature. And the word for your nature, another word for your nature is meditation. Meditation is not a verb. That is a very commercial sentiment. Meditation is a noun. When you say, my heart is broken, or this is Vivek, the center of you is your nature, and your nature is meditation. How did you get there? Manaha swastata, your mind was directed to the intellect to the ego, and the ego to the spirit or your nature. This was the process. Swastata means the mind is healthy or natural. So for us, how am I going to experience meditation? By doing that which makes me feel more natural. And what makes you feel more natural? Practicing values. Engaging in dharma to be more integrated. Don't you like yourself more when you're patient, disciplined, generous? When you're afraid or anxious or feeling stressed, you like yourself less. So to do that which makes you feel natural will lead you to your nature. And the technical words for this is Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana will lead to moksha. Or Shravana is inspiration, Manana is reflection, Nididhyasana is contemplation, and what will it lead you to? Meditation. Now, he summarizes the whole text. He references Kriya, Bhakti, Yoga, Bodha. Got it? 4. These are the 4 yogas. These are the 4 subjects or paths that are shared in this text. Kriya is really Karma Yoga. That's verses 1 through 3. Bhakti, what we've covered, verses 4 through 9. In verse 11 we'll begin. He uses the word yoga here. It's known as Raja Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. And the last portion of the text is Bodha or Jnana Yoga. So here Sri Ramana is taught Karma and Bhakti, and saying the fulfillment of this is enlightenment, joy. And then he teaches 2 more paths. I think a lot of you have some experience or interest in asanas, yogasana, correct? Okay. Ashtanga Yoga perfectly overlaps with what we've studied in Bhakti. And here's how. Yama and Niyama, these are the first 2 steps in Ashtanga Yoga. In English, this means don'ts and do's. That is to bring balance to our lifestyle, Once your lifestyle is more balanced, there's more space. Next is asana. That is to bring balance to your body. What's next? Pranayama. What do you think that's bringing balance to? Your breathing. Whoa, it's like Panchakosha Viveka. It's like everything we've been studying forever. I'm trying to show to you how systematic self-development is. Sanatana Dharma is. After that is Pratyahara, which is to bring balance to the mind. The next 2 steps, Dharana and Dhyana, to bring balance to the intellect. It's a more powerful equipment. It needs more steps. And the last rung or limb of Ashtanga Yoga is Samadhi. Samadhi means to well and fully place the ego. In what? The spirit. So Samadhi is for bringing balance to the ego. Now, I hope you're not thinking, what does the spirit need to be balanced? The spirit is balance. Anything that's far away from the spirit is imbalanced. You're going back to balance. Did you all catch that framework? How the 8 limbs of what is very commercial now, Ashtanga Yoga, is really preparation and process for contemplation. Now bringing this more to what we've been studying. Yama Niyama, lifestyle. I already told you about that. Then, for your body and breath, puja. For your mind, japa. For your intellect and ego, dhyana. Dots are connected, or I just put out too many dots. Nishchitam. That's the last word that is used. Nishchitam, which is like the previous verse. This has been determined. Om Tat Sat. This is the truth. If you never came across a Shastra, that is a scripture, if your parents never told you about your creator, God, would you ever think about God? Would you ever think about life? You wouldn't. You can't contemplate on a subject that you don't know about. It is only when even intellectually you're given insights into the spirit, into the creator, can you contemplate on this. So when Sri Ramana is sharing, this has been determined, he's sharing the need for studying the scriptures. And not just that. In terms of a subjective science, here we're not crossing the Grand Canyon. We're not crossing from Canada to America over the Niagara Falls. You're crossing over you. Now, what does that even mean? This is a subjective science. And so we need a very unique guide, whom we generalize as a Sadguru. A guru, a guide, who knows Sat, who knows the truth. This has been determined. Without a Sadguru, you cannot have access to the Shastra. Without the Shastra, you cannot have access to the spirit, to your own heart. And a seeker recently shared with me such a lovely way to understand the need for a Sadguru. She shared that the scriptures are like a compass. They give you these arrows, these letters, but it is only the guru who can give you direction. Suppose you have a compass and it says north and east and west and south, but you don't know what to do with that. It is the guru who provides direction. You need a direction and you need the compass. We'll chant this together. Hritsthale mana swastata kriya bhakti yoga bodh ascha nishchitam. Upadesha Sara is encouraging us to shift our focus from always doing more to being more. Our IQs, our education is ever engaging us to do more, do more, do more. The advice being given here is be more. And what's amazing about this is the more you be, the more you will do. The greatest contributors in history, the people we remember forever, they did so much because they were in tune with being. Upadesha Sara is the advice of Sri Ramana. In the last verse, verse 30, Sri Ramana shares, Mahat idam tapa. And what that means is, Mahat means great. Idam, he's referring to inquiry or minding the gap. Tapa is practice, discipline, burning your comfort zone. And another way to interpret tapa is purpose. What is the greatest purpose? To go from dependently joyous to independently joyous. Have you ever heard of Jack Hartman? Anyone? Jack Hartman. He's this dude that teaches kids the alphabet. And he has this saying, see it, say it, sign it. And then he tells the alphabet. C, A. Say A, and then sign it. He teaches sign language. His name is Jack Hartman. See it, say it, sign it. It's very hypnotic. There's times when I wake up to see it, say it, sign it, because that's always going on in our home. And this is my last message for all of you. Puja is about seeing. What you should see is a rope that is tying your head and hands together. How do you mind your gap? Puja. The visual is a rope. What will happen is you'll start to concentrate. Whenever you're feeling rattled, feeling anxious, concentrate on what you are doing. More deep than that, or intense, supreme, uttama, so many words are used, is japa. See it, then say it. And I want you to visualize quicksand. Have any of you ever been in quicksand before? Okay. I was in quicksand once, and it is exactly as you see on cartoons. Once you're in quicksand, the more you move down. And when I was in this quicksand, I was not able to get myself out. My friend had to put his hand out for me to pull myself out. That's what japa is. Whenever you can't help yourself, ask for help. From Bhagavan Krishna or Bhagavan Shiva, your guide, nature. Say it. That is japa. This is called collaborate. When you feel rattled, when you feel stress, collaborate. Okay? See it, puja. Rope, concentrate. Say it, japa. Quicksand, collaborate. And more intense, more purifying, more towards the end, sign it. The word dhyana, I told you, is nidhi dhyasana, correct? Do you remember me sharing that? It means to keep in your mind always, in other words, practice. Live this. And the visualization I want you to keep is a post office. Everything that goes into a post office, that post office knows what's coming in and out. Everything is scanned and labeled and organized. Contemplation is when you know everything that's going on in your mind. These are negative thoughts, these are positive thoughts. That's a productive thought, this is unproductive. And when you can see your mind like this, when you can treat every thought that is stamped with your own intention and awareness, you will pull out the fuel from negative thoughts and give that energy to productive thoughts. That's what contemplation is. And what's amazing about this is, soon enough, you just start to watch your thoughts. I'd shared that with you in terms of when you have a thought to scratch your body or to move, just watch it. If you don't own that thought, you don't have to act on it. But as soon as you own that thought owns you then. So begin to watch. So that last model was sign it, which means nidhi dhyasana, practice. Your visualization is a post office. That is contemplation. We continue to your rad. How many of you tried your rad that I'd given you 2 days ago? Your rad from 2 days ago was for you to create your infinity space. Are you in your infinity space right now? Some of you are. Do you know why I asked you to do this? Because finally, you have to take that external infinity space and make this a internal infinity space. Your mind is supposed to become your infinity space. We may have a very beautiful exterior, but unless that's deepening to your own personality, what's the point? You just become obsessive with things outside. Then yesterday's rad was you trying to be a gopi, to be a full-time seeker, to feel this, to come up with 1 or 2 or 3 changes that you are going to make in your lifestyle. Does anyone want to share what changes you're going to make? And how I connected that to today was be determined. Yes, be decisive about what you're going to change to be a full-time seeker. And then be inspired too as you struggle through this. The message for verse 10 is to reconcile. To reconcile as you create your routine and you relate to the message and you release yourself. Reconcile means do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Don't drop the ball. Keep learning. Whatever mistakes you made yesterday, don't make those mistakes today or tomorrow. So that is those changes. Your reflection adventure of the year, until we meet again. Whatever gaps you feel in your personality, as soon as you sense them, plug them. As that gap comes in, concentrate. If it needs more, collaborate. If it needs more, contemplate. You will know that you're engaged in this reflection adventure of the year when you become more efficient. Whenever you succumb to negativity, how much faster you come out of that negativity. For those in relationships, a great sign of a great relationship is how soon you ask and give forgiveness. The longer it takes, the lesser the relationship. The sooner it comes, the greater the relationship. So you should become more efficient. You rebound faster. And you will also feel that you're becoming more effective because you have less gaps in your personality. Everything you do, you're better at it. Studying, memorizing, talking, and so on. In terms of announcements, over this retreat, I've shared with you about Chinmay Mission Niagara's social media. I've shared details with you about podcasts and webcasts. I've shared details on 4 books, Life Lessons, Traditions, The Reflection Adventure of the Week workbook, and Prince Arjuna's Questions. My final invitation to all of you, every morning and every evening, every day, we have a workshop called Meaningful Mornings and Easy Evenings. In Meaningful Mornings, we're taking up every verse of Bhagavad Gita. Today we covered verse 13. In the evenings, we are taking up 30 values, a value a week, and the source of this is Bhagavatam. It's called Samanya Dharma. It is the responsibility of every human to know and live these 30 values. Be part of this. When external structure is taken away, which has happened for all of us, we can't find excuses. We have to find ways to create internal structure. And that's what Meaningful Mornings and Easy Evenings is. I continue to questions, 2 questions that I have not been able to answer, which I'm going to do right now. Is frustration earned And is it required for our self-development? It's a good question. Is frustration earned? Only if you're a thinker. If you're not a thinker, everything will frustrate you, but you'll never reconcile that. You'll never learn from that. So you'll get frustrated again and again and again. But for a thinker, they will feel frustrated with injustice. They will be frustrated with themselves. Why did I say this to this person? Why did I sleep in? Why did I stay up so late? That frustration is earned in the sense that you've been thinking about this, which is why you're frustrated. And this is quite powerful because you'll want to come out of that frustration. But if you don't reconcile, this will just ferment and your personality will become bitter. You will always be frustrated. Reconciling is very, very, very important. After every class that I teach, Meaningful Mornings or Living the Gita, I go through all of my notes to see what I did cover and did not cover. And that gets moved into the next class then, because it's important for me, for students. And the last question, you mentioned about taking one's profession as a service. Would a tech job be considered a service or not? Here, I am serving people to make their lives easier by developing solutions. Yes. If you feel your job is service-oriented, it is. And if you feel it's not, then it's not. It's about your feeling. In some professions, they make this feeling easier. I was doing commercial real estate. And every day I thought, if I don't do this, 1,000 other people will do it. Is this important? Is this what the world needs right now? And when I shifted to being a full-time volunteer like I am right now, if I don't do this, maybe 1,000 people can do this, maybe not. I feel that this is more important. And so this is easier for me to feel as a service. So if you have that liberty of finding an overtly service-oriented job, do it. I've been sharing with our young adults, we need more people to be counselors and therapists and social workers. We tend to drift to the established professions, but that's like me. I only work out my biceps, but never my triceps. Right? My biceps can't be as strong then. Both are required. We need those supportive careers. Some of you may know this about me. When I was younger, I had a lisp. I couldn't pronounce S, T, R, many letters. When I'm excited, it comes out again. And Sheila has a good laugh about that. But there is a speech pathologist who happened to be assigned to our school, who happened to be assigned to me to help me come out of my speech impediment. And if she didn't do that when I was in grade 4, now all day, all I do is speak. And that's what I'm talking about, is taking up such service-oriented professions. And you're not going to make the most money and people are not going to follow you as much, but you will be happy. And when you're happier, everything is better. Fair enough. So your question about, is tech a service job? It's up to you. That's the straightforward answer. Shanti, Shanti, Shantihi. Be safe, be sound, be serene, be happiness.